All right, we are live. Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat. My name is Lee Hayward, and over the next hour, I'm going to be hanging out here and answering questions and topics of discussion related to health and fitness that you guys want to talk about. So feel free to type in your questions and topics of discussion into our video chat window, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, because we're streaming from both platforms. You can type in your questions and topics of discussion related to health and fitness, nutrition, exercise, strength training, cardio, supplementation, building muscle, losing fat, any specific challenges you may be dealing with when it comes to your personal fitness program. Feel free to type those questions and topics into the chat window, and I'll do the best I can to help you out over the course of our chat today. All right, so I see some people popping onto the live stream here now. All right, as you're popping onto the live stream, please feel free to introduce yourself, and also let me know if this is coming through loud and clear. All right, I always want to make sure that it is coming through loud and clear, but please, it would certainly help to just give me a little thumbs up there, or a little just post in the comment section, hey, coming through loud and clear, just to let me know. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, and Lee just did that. Appreciate it. Coming through loud and clear. Thank you much. Always appreciate it. All right. And William saying same thing. All right. Awesome. Good stuff. Appreciate it. And we have Hey Fever joining in. Welcome. Glad to have you joining in, gentlemen. All right. As a few more people are popping onto our live stream here now, I'm going to address some questions and topics that came through in advance as well, because sometimes people like to share or post their questions in advance, especially over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group. And if you are over on Facebook, if you haven't already done so, I would highly recommend that you join our Total Fitness Bodybuilding group. All you have to do is search for Lee Hayward's Total Fitness Bodybuilding, and it is a group that you can join. Just click on join the group and fill out the few little questions there, and I will personally add you to the group. And if we're not already friends on Facebook, feel free to friend request me over there as well. That tends to be my most popular social media platform. I'm more active on Facebook than anywhere else. I mean, I do have Instagram, but I'm not very active over there. Right? It's kind of like a supplementary social media account for me. My main platform of choice is through Facebook, through the Total Fitness Bodybuilding group. And we also have a private group for our coaching students with the Muscle After 40 Blueprint as well. So that's just my personal platform that I like to use for communicating throughout the week. All right, who else we got joining in? Lots of people popping on our live stream here. So again, this is our first live stream of 2025. And I'm just curious, what are some of your goals that you would like to achieve now in the new year? And is anything like anything different, anything changed, or any special things that you want to work towards? Like when you kind of do a review of the past year, how would you stack yourself up? Like, are you pleased with your progress over the last year? Are there any areas you'd like to improve on? Are you still chasing the same goals that you had this time last year? Or are you working on some new ones? Like, please let me know. Keep that conversation going, and feel free to type it into our chat window there, and we can discuss this as well. Because the new year, it's a challenging time, and a lot of times people put unnecessary pressure around New Year's resolutions. And unfortunately, for most people who set New Year's resolutions, they're not going to come to fruition. They're going to be like a fart in the wind. They're here today and gone tomorrow, right? That's just like it's a fleeting thing. It's almost like a fad. And a lot of times people set them just because it sounds cool to say, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to join the gym. I'm going to start a fat loss program. I'm going to do whatever. It sounds cool in the moment, and all the hype and the rah and all that same piss and vinegar every year. But most of the time, those goals they fizzle out very quickly, right? Like a lot of times they're even gone by this time in February, and over the course of a few months, those goals are gone. And the percentage of people who actually achieve their fitness goals in the new year, it's like 8%. I think that's what it actually works out to if you average it out over the course of how many people actually set goals and how many people actually achieve them. 8%. So it's not very good odds. So if you are going to be setting some goals for yourself, just curious, what are they? And what are your plans to beat the odds and actually achieve it? Right. This was something that I actually talked about in the our most recent podcast that I did. It's not uploaded yet. I actually just videoed the podcast there or recorded it the other day, but it'll be posted up early next week, so you can check that one out. And of course, that'll be posted up on YouTube as well as Spotify and iTunes and all the different podcast platforms. So going to the top 5 mistakes that people make that cause them to fail with reaching their New Year's resolution goals. And we really break down each one of those in the podcast. So stay tuned for that one. That'll be coming, should hopefully have it uploaded by Monday. Like this past week has been a bit of a, with Christmas and then the whole New Year's and all that kind of stuff. Things kind of got a bit out of hand there with, there was no podcast recorded or published in the last week. So get back on track with it now next week. All right, let's see who else we have joining in here. We have LOL Blue, Lola Blue. All right. Trying to Lola Lou here. I keep trying to join your program via email. Are you still taking on people? Yeah, we are. We can certainly. If you say you're trying to join the program via email, I'm just curious where are you sending the emails to? Because I mean, unless you just sent it today, I didn't check it yet or I didn't receive it. But if you want, I tell you where you can actually go to. Just head on over to leehayward.com/video. And there's a little video presentation that explains the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program, what it is. And right there, you can actually start the application if you would like to come on board with the program. So just head on over there. I actually have a link to it right in the description below this video, down in the show notes below. Pop that open. There's a link there. We can go and apply. And if you need to, you can send me an email. I mean, I know you said you're trying to join through email. The first step, I mean, obviously you can send me an email, but what we would do is I'd like to schedule in a time where we can have a chat, like maybe book in for a Zoom call, have a conversation, get to know about you, your goals, your challenges, what it is you're trying to achieve, and see if you're actually a good fit for this. Because if it's not a good fit, like I don't want to force someone to do something that they don't want to do or that's not a good fit, right? I mean, like I'm very transparent about that. Like if I don't feel that I can help you achieve your fitness goals, then I'll let you know, but I'll try and point you in the right direction to somebody who can. So I've got a large network of friends and colleagues in the fitness industry. And if I'm not the right coach for you, I'll probably be able to find someone who can help you to achieve your goals. So that's one of the first things we want to do is make sure that this is actually a good fit for you. And if it is, then we'll brainstorm an action plan that's right for you based on your situation, your available exercise equipment, your schedule, your food preferences, any injuries or mobility issues that you're working around. Like it's very tailored to the individual because everyone's got their own unique challenges, their own unique situations, and their own unique goals and struggles and vices that they have to deal with as well. So that's all taken into consideration. And that's why I really like to sit down and just have a good heart-to-heart conversation, like usually a Zoom call, just to get to know more about you and your situation. So again, if that's something you're interested in, down in the notes below in the video description, you can fill out the application and I'll be in touch with you to arrange a time where we can have a chat and map out a realistic action plan that's right for you. All right, who else is joining in? We've got Robert joining in. Good afternoon, Robert. Glad to have you joining us. I know Robert mentioned, he actually messaged me earlier today, said he had a bit of a tumble and hit your head. So hopefully you're feeling better. I mean, glad that you're joining here on the video chat, but hopefully you're feeling better. We've got AJ joining in. Good evening to you as well. Of course, the time is all relevant to where you are in the world. Because I know for some people, it's a good morning, it's a good afternoon, or it's a good evening, or a good day. That's what I'll say. It's a good day. All right, joining in. Happy New Year to you as well. Glad to have you joining in. Zulio saying Happy New Year 2025. All the best. Much appreciated. And the same to you, my friend. Question here. How does one become part of the 8%? Jeff in North Carolina. How does one become part of the 8%? Do you mean 8% body fat or... Oh, my bad. You were referring to when I said the success rate of people who achieve the New Year's resolution goals, right? That was something that I actually went into more detail with in the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast. So I'm going to be releasing that podcast on Monday, and I highly recommend you check it out because I break down the 5 biggest mistakes that people make and what you can do instead. So instead of trying to give you all the hype and rah and like, hey, it's the New Year's, you go get them, Tiger, rah, I say, like, let's analyze where people screw up. What are the biggest causes of failure? And I broke it down to the top 5, and we analyze those and focus on, like, how can we do the opposite, or at least not go down that path, and focus on staying on track to actually making your goals a reality. So I broke that down into great detail. I mean, it's an hour-long podcast, so I'm not going to rehash it here on today's video chat, but that's going to be coming out on Monday. And when it's available, you'll get a notification through YouTube, and it'll also be uploaded to all the different podcast platforms as well. Okay, the question here, is it okay to do deadlifts on pull day because squat and deadlift on leg day is brutal? Yeah, a lot of people do deadlifts on their pull day / back day. That's most people consider deadlifts a back exercise, so you can certainly do that. Now, with that being said, depending on how you structure your training, you could literally combine squats and deadlifts together. I mean, that is a very hard workout, but if you're training for powerlifting, that's what you do in competition. So a lot of powerlifters will actually pair up squats and deadlifts in the same training session because that duplicates the kind of stress that they're going to experience in competition. Because if any of you have competed in powerlifting, or you know people who have, it's squat, bench, deadlift, all done in the same day. So a lot of times powerlifters will very often combine those. And the thing with squats and deadlifts is, even though the deadlift is more back oriented and the squat is more leg oriented, the same major muscle groups come into play. So with the deadlift, you're hitting your back, but you're still hitting your hips and your hamstrings and your glutes and even your quads to a small degree. With the squat, obviously you're hitting your, the quads, the hamstrings, the hips, and the glutes, but the back comes into play to a great degree as well. So it's the same major muscle groups with both exercises. So depending on how you structure your workouts, you may want to pair them up so that you get equal recovery time. But what you may find is that it's, as you're building up your strength and your conditioning, and to the point where you're handling more workload there, it may be just too much to try and do a full-on squat session and a full-on deadlift session in the same workout, or at least to do it on a regular basis. I mean, you probably do it every now and then to kind of test yourself, but to do it on an ongoing basis may be a bit like overkill. It's too much to recover from. One thing that I used to do, especially when I was kind of like at my peak in terms of bodybuilding and strength back in the day when I was, in my prime, I found that when I was really training heavy, to do squats and deadlifts in the same week was almost too much. It was really taxing on the recovery. So what I used to do was alternate them week for week. So I'll give you an example. On leg day, let's just say, okay, this leg day, I'm going to do squats. And then on the back day, I would probably do rows and machine exercises and pull downs and pull ups and, all kinds of other back exercises, but I wouldn't do actual deadlifts on my back day in the same week that I did squats. The following week, I'd reverse it. So on the leg day, I wouldn't do squats, but I'd probably do like leg presses and leg extensions and other leg exercises. And then for my back workout, I would do the deadlifts and also then incorporate some assistant exercises. So I was alternating every other week. Squats one week, deadlifts the next. Squats one week, deadlifts the next. And I found that worked better for my recovery, and I was able to actually make better progress that way. And I found it was easier on the back, because doing heavy squats and heavy deadlifts in the same week, I mean, that's a lot of load on the back, a lot of load on the spine. And I found that over time, it would sometimes become too much to recover from effectively. So that's why I like to break them up. I mean, you could probably try that as well if you find that combining them either on the same day or even within the same week is too much, right? You can break it up. And that's one of the cool things about training. Like, there's really no rules here. Like, I know sometimes you get following different fitness influencers and different programs, and people have their, like, it's almost like you must do this or you have to train this with that and have all these hard set rules. And the reality is there is no rules. Like, everything works, right? you can machine exercises work, free weight exercises work, CrossFit works, body weight exercises work. It all works. It's just, what do you prefer and what works best for you based on your situation, your fitness level, your goals, all that kind of stuff. So don't get hung up on the rules. Focus on customizing it for you based on where you're at right now and where you want to go in the future. Right. So like, I have done phases where I've done literally squats and benches and deadlifts in the same training session and made really good progress with it for a while. But eventually you'll get to the point where that builds up to quite an intense workout, and you probably can't sustain that over the long term. And then you need to break it up, right? Just like I mentioned before. So again, it's not right or wrong. It's just what's ideal for you at this stage of the game. And feel free to experiment and try. I mean, because the worst case scenario, you try a new style of training, obviously give it some time for your body to adapt to it, and give it an honest effort. But if it doesn't work out, you can always change it and go back to doing what you were before, right? Like, that's the beauty of this. Like, it's like you're choose your own adventure, right? And one thing I want to mention as well, when you are trying a new program, give it an honest effort. Like, give it at least 6 weeks or more before you throw in the towel. Because a lot of times people are program hopping. Like, they'll try something for a week or two and say, oh, that didn't work. They'll try something else for a week or two and say, oh, that didn't work. And they're bouncing all over the place, chasing the red shiny ball, and never giving any set program time for their body to actually adapt and grow in response to that program, right? Like, every program you follow, right, regardless if it's a bodybuilding program, a strength program, a conditioning program, whatever, every program goes through the same phases. It's, you try something, you provide some unique muscle stimulation to your body, and in the process of that, you're going to adapt, right? You're training unique muscle stimulation, and you adapt to that unique stimulation. As your body's adapting, it's going to grow, meaning you're going to get bigger, you're going to get stronger, you're going to get more conditioning, whatever it is that you're training for. After a while, that growth is going to start to slow down, and eventually you're going to hit a plateau. Once you hit a plateau, then you have to be smart enough to realize, okay, I need to change the variables up in order to start this whole process again, the whole adapt, grow, plateau all over again. And where a lot of people make mistakes is, one, they stick to the same routine forever, and they kind of get stuck in a plateau, and they're just kind of spinning their wheels. I mean, they may have a good day sometimes, they might have a bad day sometimes, but they're not really making any real progress. They're kind of just spinning their wheels. I mean, it's not necessarily bad, because they're still reaping the health benefits of exercise and the stress relief benefits of it and all that. But in terms of actual strength and conditioning or athletic performance, they're kind of spinning their wheels. The other side, where a lot of people make mistakes, is they're constantly bouncing around, like the whole muscle confusion side of things, where like, oh, I'll try this for a week, and I'll try that for a week, and I'll try something else. And there's really no rhyme or reason. And sure, you can still make some progress that way, but it's not ideal, because you're not really adapting to any one set of training protocols. Like, you're just bouncing all over the place. So if you really want to maximize training stimulation and growth, I would recommend sticking to a set program and going through the full cycle of adapt, grow, plateau. And then once you've realized you're in that plateau phase, then you want to change it up and go through the cycle again with a different style of training. Right? And again, if you want some help with that, feel free to reach out to me, and we can lay out an action plan that's right for you. I mean, but that's the bigger picture perspective of how the whole process works. All right, where else we do? I lost my place there. That was the question about deadlifts. Okay, gotcha. Let's see. All right. Your website has a thing that says click here to join, and it never works. I just sent you an email. Click here to join. I wonder what website are you referring to? Please let me know, because I have click here to join. I'm going to have to check it out myself after we're finished the video chat to see what link you're referring to. All right. But you sent me an email. If you sent me an email, I should get it, and I'll respond to you after our video chat is over. Let's see. We got Felix joining in here. He says, what is your protein intake suggestion? A gram per pound of lean body mass, like Chris Aceto? That's a general rule of thumb. I mean, it's kind of a very common one in the bodybuilding circles. But I definitely, this is the way I like to look at protein intake. Generally speaking, I recommend a gram of protein per pound of your ideal body weight, whatever it is that you would like to weigh. So let's just say you're overweight and you want to lose weight. Well, what is your target weight that you would like to get to? So let's just say, for example, someone's 250 pounds and they would like to get down to 200 pounds. Well, then eat 200 grams of protein per day. Vice versa, if someone is on the slim side and they want to gain weight, then eat a gram of protein per pound of target ideal body weight per day. So let's just say someone is 150 pounds and they want to bulk up to 175 pounds. Then eat 175 grams of protein per day. Like, have that as your target. That's a good guideline to shoot for. But realize it's never going to be perfect. Like, some days you're going to eat more, some days you're going to eat less. Some days your appetite is higher, some days it's lower. So your circumstances can change. Most people are going to have fluctuations with their eating, but try and stay in the ballpark. Like, have that as your target and try to hit that more often than not. If you go a little higher, it's not a big deal, right? I would much rather someone err a little more on the protein intake than constantly erring a little low on the protein. And even if it bumps up your calories a little bit, for the most part, I would recommend that. Unless you're in an extreme situation where you're really trying to cut weight and you're on a deadline, like someone who's an athlete trying to make weight for a competition or something like that, where they have to hit a certain target. But for general health and fitness and body composition improvements, I would recommend making sure that you're hitting those protein intake goals consistently. That is one of the most important things. And the nice thing about protein is it's not going to contribute to fat gain the same as if you overate carbohydrates or you overate fat calories. Like, it's easy for your body to take excess fat and convert it to body fat. It's a little harder to take excess carbohydrates and convert it to fat, but it can still be done. It's hardest to take excess protein and convert it to body fat. But if you do overeat it to a great degree, it still can happen, but it's less likely to, because protein is very thermogenic, meaning it takes a lot of energy and increases the metabolism in the digestion and utilization of that protein. So just realize that if you're going to overeat, you're better off overeating protein because it's less likely to get stored as body fat. And it also ensures that you're meeting all your protein needs and providing your body with the raw materials and amino acids and everything it needs for adequate recovery and growth. So my target is, again, a gram of protein per pound of your ideal goal body weight per day. But if you want to go a little higher than that, that's fine as well. It's unless someone has, genetic health issues, going a little higher with the protein is not going to cause any issues. Let's see what we got here. Robert saying, I learned how to work through a setback by watching how you work through yours. Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah. And that's one of the things I like to be transparent and share when things are going well, and also share when things are not going so well. Like, because if I have some setbacks, I generally share it, especially on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group or within our coaching group as well, because that's real life. Like, sometimes we get on social media and you're following people on YouTube or, whatever your social media platform, your Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and they're always showing the highlight reel. They're only showing, when things are going great. Like, here's me at my best and it's all sunshine and rainbows. But that's not the way real life is. Everyone goes through the ups and downs. And very often when you're following people on social media, you're just seeing, the peaks, right? You're not seeing the valleys. So I like to be transparent and share it all. Like, if I go through some setbacks with my training, I definitely share it. And I actually discussed that in the new podcast that I just recorded. At the start of that, I did a review of my past training year. And this past year, 2024, was not a personal best year for me. I mean, it was lower, like my training volume, everything was down from 2023, but it was still good enough. And I'm not beating myself up over that. I mean, I would have liked to have had a personal best year. I mean, everybody would, but I'm just kind of accept the fact that it wasn't a personal best year, but it still was good enough. Like, it wasn't major setbacks. If anything, it was kind of like, I have made some progress in certain areas, but overall it was kind of like a maintenance year for the most part. It really wasn't a progressive year, but still, As you get older, sometimes even maintaining your fitness or maintaining your weight could be chalked up as a victory, because the reality is a lot of people, they're not maintaining. They're slowly declining and getting worse year after year after year. And I'm sure you can probably relate to that, or at least you probably know some people who are in that situation. Right. So, but the big thing is we want to focus on being good enough and good enough consistently over the long term. Right. That's the key here. Zulio saying, is it okay to do an easy workout if you are sick slash fever? Absolutely. It depends. Like if you are really feeling sick, maybe the best thing to do is to just take the day off and to rest. But if you're feeling up for it, then you can do some light exercise. But if you're not feeling 100%, don't push yourself 100% in the gym. Like this is something that I do all the time, regardless if I'm sick or not. I listen to my body and adjust the volume and the intensity of the workouts accordingly. Now, with that being said, if you're following a structured program, sometimes there may be situations where you'll do some controlled overtraining to create an adaptive stimulus, like especially in athletic training. Like if someone's training for competition, sometimes they'll do some overtraining purposely and in a controlled fashion to condition their body for the higher workload. And then when they back off the training, then they get this like super compensation. It's almost like carb loading and carb depleting and that kind of type of thing. But sometimes you can push your body to the borderline of overtraining. And then when you back off, you get this overcompensation where you actually, recover at a greater rate and you actually feel stronger. So there are some situations where that is applicable, for higher level, more advanced athletes. But for the average person, the person who's going to the gym to work out, to get fit and healthy and just lose the gut and build muscle and get in shape, listen to your body. Like if you're feeling strong and energetic, then okay, that's the day when you can go in there and push it and have a really good workout. If you're feeling exhausted or you didn't sleep well the night before, or you're just not feeling 100%, then don't expect to go 100% in the gym. Like give yourself permission to scale it back. Go in there and do an easier workout. Either lift lighter weights, choose easier exercises, or just reduce the volume. Maybe do like less sets of the workout. Like that's something that you have total control over. And if you're feeling sick, then definitely scale it back. I mean, it depends on how sick you're feeling, right? It really depends on that. If you feel like dog crap, like you're just, you're sick, you're coughing, you're snotting, you got no energy and everything else, maybe it's best not to even bother. If you're going to do anything, maybe like just get outside and go for like a walk around the block or something, just kind of clear your head. But don't go into the gym, especially if you're sick. I mean, you don't want to be spreading your germs and getting other people sick as well. Like that's a bit of a pet peeve of mine too. When I see people at the gym who are coughing and snotting and all that, and then they're in there spreading their germs around everybody else in the gym, like, man, if you're feeling like that, stay the hell home out of it, right? Like I wouldn't want to be doing that to other people, and I don't appreciate it when other people do it at the gym as well. So if you're really sick, stay home. But it doesn't mean you don't have to do anything. Like that, getting outside for a walk, like that's like my default go-to exercise when I'm feeling under the weather, because it still gets you moving. It still gets you out and get some fresh air, which tends to make you feel better. And I find when I'm breathing in the fresh air and just doing some light activity, it helps to clear out my head, especially if you got like sinuses and you're congested. Breathing in that fresh air and just the light movement can really help to clear it out. So I find that that's actually helpful. It's like active recovery, but it's not stressing your body out. So you really have to play it by ear on how you approach that. But it's certainly okay to scale back. All right, we got Eddie joining in and wishing a happy new year, and the same to you, my friend. Glad to have you joining in. We have Philippe joining in. Happy New Year, everyone. My New Year's resolution is to add more cardio to my current workout routine. I'm pretty consistent with doing 3 full body workouts per week, but slacking a bit on my cardio. Best of luck to everyone with their New Year's resolutions. Cool. I can appreciate that. And it'd be good to be more specific with that. I mean, like it's great. This is another thing, like we can really dissect here a bit or break down. So you want to add more cardio. Well, what is more cardio? Like how much more? What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? Like how are you going to structure that in? The more specific you can be, the more likely you'll actually make that a reality. Because having vague goals, like, I want to do more cardio. Well, hey, put on your sneakers and walk around the block. There, you just did more cardio. Is that what you mean? Or do you want to have something more structured? Right? Like, that's something that you should focus on. And if this is a priority, like you want to add more cardio, then you should track that and record it just the same as you would your weight training workouts as well. Right? So maybe you have some dedicated time. And what I like to do personally is I like to separate my cardio and my strength training workouts. I mean, ideally, that's what you should do. If, like, do a strength training workout one day and then maybe a cardio workout the next, and you can alternate them day for day like that. That's a great way to get daily exercise, but work different energy systems, and you're not duplicating the training stimulus. Like, one day it's literally strength training workouts, the next day is cardio conditioning, and they can actually be complementary that way. So that's what I like to do, and that's what I usually recommend for a lot of my coaching students. But if you have to do it together, then the best would be probably to separate the weight training and cardio workouts, and maybe do cardio in the morning and weight training in the afternoon, or vice versa. And if you have to do it together in the same session, then I would usually recommend doing the cardio after the weight training, right? Save the weight training for when you're strong and fresh, and then do the cardio afterwards. That's generally how I would recommend splitting it up. But be more specific about it, like exactly what is it you're going to do, and maybe even set some goals in terms of like strength or stamina or endurance that you're going to focus on with the cardio. Like, maybe you want to hit a new personal best 5K time or something like that. Like, maybe you want to be able to run 5K and then work on improving that time. Or maybe you have you want to start cycling and you have some specific goals in terms of power output or ride duration and stuff like that. Like, I know I was talking to one of my coaching students there last week, and one of his goals is he wanted to cycle 100 miles this year. Like, that was a bucket list goal of his. He wanted to be able to do a century ride, cycle 100 miles. And, we got to break that down into stepping stone goals to build up to that. But having some specific goals for your cardio training, just the same as you would with your strength training, will make it more likely that those goals will come to fruition. And it'll give you more structure with it versus just haphazardly throwing in cardio, which is the way a lot of guys who focus on strength training, like, they're very meticulous with their strength training workouts, and cardio is just like an aftermath. Like, I'll walk on the treadmill, or there's really no rhyme or reason to it. Now, I'm not, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, because I was that guy myself not too long ago. But now I've learned to be more structured with the cardio as well as the strength training. We got David joining in quick. Hello, Lee. Happy New Year to you and your family. Big respects. Keep on pumping, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you much, David. Glad to have you joining in. Awesome. And Lola said, sent the email. Good stuff. All right. I will get to your email after our video chat. All right. We have the last fake natty joining us, Brother Lee. Glad to have you joining us, Mr. Fake Natty. Who else do we have there? Okay, how much muscle could I expect to gain in my first year in the gym, assuming I eat well and train well? I don't know. That there's a lot of variables to that. There's a lot of variables, and eating well and training well is not very specific either. Like, I'm just going to kind of break down the different variables that come into play. One is your age. I mean, the younger you are, the more likely that you're going to maximize those gains and have more significant gains. For example, like if you take someone in their teenage years who's going through puberty, like someone in their late teens, when their natural testosterone, natural growth hormone is at its highest, their body is in their prime for growth, and then they stack on proper training and nutrition and getting adequate sleep and all those healthy habits, they're going to make incredible gains. It's going to be like the best gains that they will ever make. If you take someone who's 40 or 50 years old and have them follow a similar program, they're still going to make progress, but it's not going to be to the same degree, because their body has already gone through that natural growth spurt and their hormones are not the same. Like, there's going to be a lot less growth the older you are versus someone who's younger. And to put things in perspective, like, I'm very fortunate that I started training when I was younger. Like, I started working out when I was 12. So I had my entire teenage years to grow, and I made some incredible progress throughout my teenage years. In fact, I basically built all my muscle mass through my teenage years, because I remember, like, when I was in my early 20s, I was basically as big as I am now. Like, I basically hit my size. Like, I can remember even in my late teens, like around 19 years old, getting up over 200 pounds, right? Like, that was, I mean, crazy gains, especially considering when I started working out, I was probably about 130 pounds, somewhere around there. So, I mean, over the course of my teenage years, I put on like 70 pounds of muscular body weight, which is a lot. But it was because I was going through that natural growth transition anyway. Like, every teenager from the age of 13 to 19 gets bigger and stronger, regardless if they lift weights or not. It's just puberty, just going through that natural growth spurt. So if you combine that with training and nutrition, you're going to make incredible gains. So that would be the high end of the spectrum right there. As far as how much muscle someone could gain in their first year, in those type of scenarios, it's not uncommon for people to gain 20 pounds or more in their first year, like, especially if they're going through a puberty growth spurt. Now, as you get older, you can probably slash that in half. Like, for someone who's in their 40s or 50s going through their first year of training, if you do everything spot on, 10 pounds of muscular body weight would be really good. That would be really solid progress for someone in their 40s and 50s. And then it would decline every year thereafter. Like, it would become almost like diminishing returns. You get less and less progress the longer you've been doing it. And eventually you'll get to the point where you're struggling to gain any muscle at all. So, for example, like in the situation that I'm at now, it would be really challenging for me to gain new muscle on my frame. Not saying it's impossible, but it would be really challenging. Like, I'm not going to make leaps and bounds in strength and size anymore. Right? That's been done, back in the day. But, I've heard people say, like, to kind of put things in perspective, you'll make your best gains in your first year, and then each year thereafter, you can probably expect to make about half as good a gains thereafter. And it kind of declines like that. Now, I mean, it's not always going to be linear or perfect for everyone, because there's a lot of variables that come into play in terms of how consistent are you, and all that kind of stuff. Or and if you have any injuries or things that set you back outside of training and nutrition. But generally speaking, that's the kind of progress that you can look at. You're going to make your best gains in the first year, and then it's going to decline every year thereafter. All right, what else we got there? Let's see. Neil is joining us. Says, Happy New Year. Just experienced doing pull-ups with metallic rings, and I just want to know why it's so hard in every rep. Is this better for muscle growth and strength perspective? Metallic rings. I'm assuming you mean like gymnastic rings. Most rings are usually wooden rings in terms of the gymnastic ones, but I'm assuming you must have metallic rings. But bottom line, if you are doing rings on the end of straps, it's very unstable. And to put things in perspective, if you're doing a pull-up on a pull-up bar, which is a solid bar, and it's fixed, it's bolted onto the wall, or it's on the end of a power rack, or however you're doing pull-ups, that is a solid apparatus. So, I mean, you're not losing any strength in the process. When you're doing rings suspended by straps, they're very wobbly and shaky, and each side is moving independently. You're losing so much strength through that. And it's such an unstable device because you have both sides and they're moving. It's going to be way harder to do pull-ups with rings than it would be to do them on a solid pull-up bar. So that's totally normal, right? You're basically working your stabilizer muscles and getting a higher level of neuromuscular stimulation because it's an unstable object. You have to use balance and coordination, and your body's at a higher level of awareness to just perform the exercise. Now, from a muscle point of view, that's good, right? That's good because it's going to be so much more demanding. Like, you just took that exercise and amped it up to the next level. Like, you're doing a very advanced version of pull-ups. So that is going to certainly help. The only downside to that is, are you able to complete enough pull-ups to get enough time under tension and to do them with proper form, right? So this is where you have to be honest with yourself. I mean, if you can still do like sets of 5 reps or more with good form with the rings, hey, by all means do it. But if you're like doing the ring pull-ups and you're struggling to get like 1 or 2 pull-ups, you may want to stick to the regular pull-ups and build up your strength and conditioning that way, and then gradually start to implement the rings, because you want to be able to get enough time under tension, right? You just don't want to be straining and struggling, and not getting good quality form and not getting good quality workouts. And this would apply with other exercises as well. Like if you take a beginner, for example, who's not very coordinated. I mean, maybe if you try and have them do barbell squats or bench presses, their form might be all over the place. They're not very stable. They're not very solid. And it's just a very awkward exercise. But if you put them on like a leg press machine or a chest press machine, they can probably do that exercise with good form, lift respectable weight enough to get some muscle stimulation and time under tension with adequate resistance. And it may actually be advantageous for a beginner to start with the machines, build up a base level of fitness there before transitioning over to the free weights. Same applies here, right? Except you're just doing it in a more advanced situation, because body weight exercises are already quite advanced. So if you are at the stage where you can do pull-ups with good form, multiple reps, multiple sets, like if you're repping out 10 plus reps of pull-ups with good form with the pull-up bar, yeah, you should be good enough to start to transition to doing ring pull-ups. But just realize that if it's too hard, then you may want to stick to the easier pull-up variations till you build up your strength and work capacity. And this would apply to other exercises. Like if you do dips with the rings or push-ups with the rings or anything like that, it's going to be so much harder compared to doing dips on a dip station or push-ups on the floor where everything is solid and secure, right? The rings just add that extra third dimension of movement, and it's just a totally unstable device, right? So it brings in a lot of balance and stabilizer muscles into play. All right, who else we got there? Platinum Gaming. I'm 22, 6'5", 250, weight train 5 days a week and cardio twice a week. I want to cut weight without losing muscle mass. How would I go about this? Well, first off, nutrition is the fundamental. Like as the old saying goes, you can't outtrain a poor diet. So really look at optimizing the nutrition. And you could probably even do this yourself. Like just write down everything that you eat over the course of the day, and even just record it. Like take say the next week and write down everything that you eat and just review it and ask yourself, is this helping me with losing weight and building muscle, or is it not? Like if you're eating like chicken and potatoes and vegetables and like oatmeal and natural, unprocessed, good, high quality, single ingredient foods, yeah, those are nourishing you and helping. If you're eating pizza and Christmas cookies and beer and hot dogs and stuff like that, is that helping you with losing fat and building muscle? Probably not. So like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out like, hey, is this helping or hurting? And you can just ask yourself that every time you eat, like, is this helping or is this hurting? And try to make more choices where it is helping the process and less where it is hurting the process, right? I mean, it's amazing the number of people who, hey, I go to the gym and I eat right and I make sure to get my protein, but then, in the evenings I sit down and I drink a beer or 6. Like, okay, is that helping the process along or not? It's probably hindering it, right? So you want to look for the low-hanging fruit. That's the first thing. That's where I would start, looking for the low-hanging fruit. Once you start eliminating those not so good choices and adding in more good choices, that in and of itself should help to create favorable body composition changes, meaning you'll probably start to lose some body fat. You start to feel better, have more energy, feel stronger, actually probably even build lean muscle in that initial phase. And then once you're doing that, then you can look at optimizing things. One thing that I see right there, I mean, cardio twice a week, that's something you could easily start to increase. And it doesn't have to be high intensity cardio. It can just be getting in extra walks or extra low intensity cardio sessions to tap into burning more body fat. So to put things in perspective, like when I was getting ready for bodybuilding competitions or any time that I'm doing an aggressive fat loss phase, I do daily cardio. That's one of my non-negotiables. I want to get some daily cardio in. And again, it doesn't have to be, high intensity or intervals or HIIT or anything like that. It could be as simple as just getting outside and going for a walk, right? Like that was my default competition cardio. I would walk for an hour a day minimum when I was getting ready for competition. And I found it worked really well. I mean, one, I enjoy it. Like, I love getting outside for walks. Makes me feel good. I really enjoyed it. At the time when I was competing, we always had dogs, so we used to take the dog for a walk. So that was fun and enjoyable as well. But that was my default go-to. Like, that was my morning routine. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd go for an hour-long walk. That was the first thing I did before I started my day, and it really kicked things off on the right track and set the day up on, and with positive momentum for fat burning. And then I followed that up with good eating, good training later in the day, and that was my strategy for fat loss. So I mean, you could implement something like that yourself, right? So the first step, cut out the not so good food choices, right? Do an evaluation of your eating and realize, hey, what's here that's not helping? Get rid of that. And then the next step, I would say, bump up the cardio, and that alone should start moving you in the right direction. And eventually you will hit a plateau with that, and you'll get to the point where, okay, I've lost a bit of weight, but now I'm kind of like stagnated. Once you stagnate, then that requires a bit of higher level coaching and a bit of higher level review to see, like, okay, where can we manipulate things? Like, where can we incorporate some more advanced training and nutrition strategies, like maybe more advanced meal timing strategies, or more advanced maybe carbohydrate cycling strategies or calorie cycling strategies, different things to optimize the fat burning. But that's something that you'll worry about later on. Like, focus on the low hanging fruit first, cleaning up your diet and just bumping up the cardio, and that should move you in the right direction. One of the strategies I like to implement, especially when it comes to fat loss, is you want to do as little as possible while still making progress. Like, for example, with a diet, how can you eat as much good quality food as possible while still burning body fat and still being in a slight deficit? With your training, like, how can you do the least amount of training possible in order to provide a positive muscle stimulation and grow? Like, instead of having the opposite approach, like most people think of going to the extremes, like, I'm going to go on this crazy starvation diet. I'm going to eat 1,000 calories a day. I'm going to work out for 2 or 3 hours a day. I'm just going to go in there, hit the gym like a madman, and I'm going to suffer it out and try and lose the weight as fast as possible. That never works. That never lasts long term. If you've ever tried it in the past, you realize you can probably sustain that for a week or two, and then you just feel burnt out and you say, like, screw this, it's not worth it, and you go back to your old habits again. But if you can just do enough to get the result and then build on that slowly. All right. Another analogy to kind of put things in perspective. Imagine you want to get a suntan, and you're white as a sheet. You haven't been out in the sun, right? And you want to get a suntan. Would you go and just lie in the sun for hours on end and then get burnt to a crisp, like be lobster red? Is that the fastest way to get a suntan? Of course not, because you're going to be in pain. Your skin is not going to tan. It's going to burn. It's going to peel, and it's just going to be agony. But what if you just went out for a few minutes at a time? Like, you started off suntanning for a few minutes at a time, and then you gradually built that up in progressive increments over time. You would develop a suntan, and you'd start small and build it up gradually over time. The same applies when it comes to your fat loss. Like, don't dive off into the deep end thinking, oh, I got to go from 3,000 calories a day to 1,000 calories a day. And I got to go from no exercise to I got to go exercise 3 hours a day. No, just do better than you were before. That's it. Better than you were before. So instead of making this massive calorie restriction, how about you say, I'm going to create a 10% calorie deficit. That's it. I'm going to bump up my activity a little bit, like add in some extra walking or add in some extra activity throughout the day, and just let that work. And then once you have adapted to that, then you can gradually ramp it up a little bit more as needed. But going with the approach of, I want to diet on as high a calorie intake as possible while doing the least amount of exercise as possible while still making progress, versus trying to do the other where I'm going to force myself to do as much as possible on as little a calorie intake as possible, because that just leads to burnout and disaster. So we want to look at this as a sustainable approach, right? This is a lifestyle, not a sprint or a quick fix solution. We have Jeffrey joining in. Welcome, Jeffrey, and Happy New Year to you as well. We have Ralph Mashamito Joe. Nailed it. Says Lee, I'm back at the gym after getting a titanium implant taken out of my leg. I was out for a month and starting slowly. How long do you think it should take me to get back into pre-surgery shape? I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns there, and obviously you're going to have to follow the advice of your doctor as far as what you can do there. But kudos to you for getting back into the gym. So you've had a titanium implant taken out. I actually had a friend of mine, this was years ago now, broke his leg and he had a titanium rod put down through his through his leg going down to support because he broke off the femur there. So maybe you had something similar to that yourself. But honestly, I don't know. I mean, I can't predict because I don't know, first off, like what your pre-surgery shape is or what you're able to do or not do. But one thing that I will suggest is ease into this. Like, don't be in a rush and push it too much too soon, because that's just going to set you back even further. Like, gradually build yourself up and listen to your body. Like, your body will tell you when something doesn't feel right. And it's okay to kind of go through the motions with easy workouts, easy exercise variations. Short, frequent workouts will be the best solution versus trying to go in there and do like an hour or more. So think of like little tiny bursts of exercise, like little tiny 10-minute sessions or something like that. If you have some home gym equipment, that would probably even be ideal. Or maybe you have some exercises recommended by like a physiotherapist or something that you can do at home with maybe like body weight or resistance bands or something like that. Just start back slowly and in little tiny increments, and then gradually build it up over time. Because one of the biggest causes of getting major injuries is when people have a setback, whether like it could be a gym injury where they pulled a muscle or they strained something, and then they have to take a little bit of time off or go easy for a while, and then they feel like, oh, I lost ground. And then when they're starting to feel a bit better again, they say, well, I got to make up for those lost workouts. And then they go too much too soon, and then they take that minor little strain and then turn it into a major injury. Like, that's very common. So ease into this, like literally just baby step your way through, and realize slow is fast when it comes to this. Slow recovery, slow progress is going to compound over time, and it'll get you back on track a lot quicker than trying to go in there and do too much and risk hurting yourself even further, right? Injury prevention or minimizing the damage should be top priority here. But I mean, I wish I could give you specifics, but again, I don't know your situation or fitness level to give any specifics there. But bottom line, if you make slow, steady progress and you refuse to quit and just keep moving forward, I mean, you should be able to get back into, again, I don't know your situation, but you should certainly get better than you are right now, right? Will you get back to pre-surgery shape? I don't know, right? It depends. Like, I've had some injuries in the past that still haunt me today. Like I've mentioned this before, like I've tore a muscle in my back in 2008. And I've never been the same since. Like, I haven't lifted the same weights since then. I haven't been able to, because every time I start getting heavier with the weights, that nagging injury acts up again. Like, for example, before then, and I had that back muscle tear in 2008, like my personal best deadlift was 530 pounds. Now, if I go, once I go beyond 315 with a deadlift, I'm risking re-injuring that. So, I mean, I haven't done heavy deadlifts ever since. And I just physically can't, because as soon as I start to go up, I remember I tried building myself up to it, and I was getting closer to pulling a 400-pound deadlift. And as soon as I did, oh, there goes the weak link in the chain, right? Where I previously tore the muscle in my back, I re-strained it again. So I have to be very careful of that and realize that, I'm probably never going to be back to pre-injury strength and conditioning. And that's why I'm such a huge advocate of injury prevention, because sometimes these injuries, I mean, they'll never fully recover in some cases. I mean, they'll haunt you forever. So, I mean, that may be the situation with you, but again, I don't know for sure. All right, what else we got? We have Azim joining in. He says, my questions regarding body weight exercises. What is the optimal and or appropriate way to incorporate them in any type of workout routine? That's a loaded question too, because it depends. You could do, depending on your fitness level, and if you're able to do body weight exercises and you have a coach who can guide you with it, you can literally train your entire body using body weight exercises exclusively. And one of my colleagues, Jeff Samatero, this is what he's doing now. I mean, he went through the Muscle After 40 program using traditional strength training in a home gym, using free weights and machines and things like that. Built up an amazing transformation, like literally got in phenomenal shape, lost weight, built muscle, achieved a great body recomposition. After he had achieved his fitness and fat loss goals, in terms of like he didn't want to focus on getting any leaner, he was happy with his body composition. Then he focused on switching gears to more athletic and performance type of goals. And one of the things he wanted to really get into was calisthenics. And he actually worked with a calisthenics coach, joined a calisthenics gym in his local area, and got specific training with that, and really mastered a lot of body weight exercises, different ring exercises, different types of uh, uh, like levers and muscle ups and uh, planche and all these different kind of L sits and different types of body weight exercises and calisthenic exercises. I mean, it's a whole area of fitness in and of itself. Just like you have, like, there's powerlifting, there's bodybuilding, there's CrossFit, we have calisthenics. Like, it's a whole niche in the whole fitness industry. So I mean, if you want to, you can literally, join a calisthenics gym and get coaching and literally go down the rabbit hole for that if you want to. Or another way is to just incorporate body weight exercises in with your traditional strength training exercises. This is what I do personally. Like, I've never went to a calisthenics gym or got specific coaching with calisthenics or gymnastic type exercises, but I do incorporate body weight exercises in with my regular workouts. And some examples of that is, like, push-ups are a great complementary exercise to do with chest training. Dips, another great complementary exercise. Pull-up variations are great to do as a complementary exercise with your back workouts, and different variations of pull-ups, different grips, different setups. Squats and lunges are great to do with your leg workouts. Back extensions and core work and stuff like that. A lot of that involves body weight exercises. So that's how I incorporate body weight exercises, but it's relatively simple body weight exercises that don't require a high level of mastery or a high level of technical skill, if you will, right? Which is what you would acquire if you were joining, say, like a gymnastics club or a calisthenics gym or somewhere like that, where they really go into mastering the body weight. So it depends on how far you want to take that. I mean, if you really want to go all out, join a gymnastics club or a calisthenics club and get some professional coaching and go down that route. But realize that you need to be in pretty damn good shape, and you need to be at a lean body weight to do that. Like, someone who's carrying around an extra 50 plus pounds of body weight, I wouldn't recommend trying to be doing calisthenics. Like, lose that extra weight first through traditional gym workouts and diet and cardio and things like that. Get your weight to a healthy body weight before you start worrying about mastering body weight and calisthenic exercises, because the heavier you are, the harder that is, and the higher the likelihood of injury is. So, you want to be smart about it as well. All right, what else we got there? Let's see. Thoughts on 2 sets to failure. 2 sets are better than 1. 2 sets to failure. I mean, the goal, I kind of addressed this in one of the previous questions. You want to do enough to stimulate progress, but you don't need to go overkill. So, 2 sets to failure, if maybe that would be productive, but would 1 set to failure be enough, right? Or maybe 2 sets just stopping shy of failure. Like, it really depends on you, your situation, and all that. I'll be honest, a lot of times when I'm coaching people, we actually purposely stop our set short of failure. For a lot of exercises, it depends on the exercise and it depends on the individual. But for big moves like squats, bench presses, deadlifts, I rarely recommend repping out to failure. I always like to leave at least a rep or 2 in reserve, just from a safety point of view, and to be able to rack the weight on your own without having to have a spotter or risk, not safely racking the weight and getting injured that way. So I'm not a huge advocate of pushing to absolute failure, but I am an advocate of progressive overload. And you can achieve progressive overload without going to absolute failure. And there's kind of like a gray area in the fitness industry where a lot of people think, well, if you don't train to failure, you're not training hard enough and you're not going to make any gains. And that's bullshit because you can make progress even if you stop short of failure. And I'm going to use the example of, like, look at a lot of strength athletes, like power lifters and people like that, and weightlifters. They do not rep out to failure. If they hit failure, it's because they miss a lift. Like maybe they're attempting a new max lift and they don't get it. So then they fail. But you don't see these guys just like in a bodybuilding sense, like taking a weight and repping it out until failure. They do multiple sets of low reps, stopping short of failure. I mean, very often when they're doing their lifts, they're racking the weight on their own. They're not, like doing the bench press to the point where they're stapled to the bench, can't get the barbell off their chest, and then having to get spotters to rack it for them. These guys are not training to failure in the sense that of the way that bodybuilders train to failure, the way we associate with that. So it's okay to stop short of failure. And from a practical point of view, it's actually safer, meaning you're less likely to get hurt, but it also makes it easier to recover and continue going back to the gym and be more consistent with your workouts. And I would much rather focusing on the consistency over the intensity. Like if you're constantly pushing yourself to failure and you're sore or injured and you're straining your like muscles, joints, tendons, and ligaments, that in the greater scheme of things is actually going to hold you back more than if you like kept it under red line and were more consistent with the workouts. And that's actually a term that I like to use when I'm coaching people in the gym. Very often, like, we'll go through a workout and maybe they hit a new personal best and they say, man, that felt really good, and I just crushed a new personal best. I say, great, awesome. Let's rack the weight and call it a day. Like, we'll move on to the next exercise. And they say, well, I think I could do more. I said, that's great. If you think you can do more, the next day we will do more. But we're going to leave it at this. We're going to leave you hungry, leave you wanting more. And that's actually a nice way to leave your workouts, like knowing that if I had to, I could push myself a little harder. I could have done more if I really had to, versus always going in there and just draining the tank dry and leaving the gym feeling exhausted and beat up all the time. Because it's a lot harder to be consistent when you're always exhausted and beat up, versus if you always just leave a little bit in reserve, it's so much easier to recover, so much easier to come back, and you're actually enthusiastic and looking forward to the next session versus dreading the next session. And I like to, it's just that like a performer on stage, like leave them wanting more. Like don't stay out there to the point where people are sick of you and like booing you off the stage. Like leave them wanting more. And if you can do that with your workouts, like just keep it under red line, just still push hard, but don't drain the tank dry, right? Leave a little bit in reserve, and that'll make it so much easier to come back and train more consistently the next time, right? That's what I do with a lot of my coaching students, and the results that I've seen as a result of doing that have been very productive. Like there's one guy that I'm training now up at Omega Health and Fitness. Tristan is his name. I've been working with him since the last spring. I'm not sure the exact date we started training together, but it was maybe we've been together now for 10 months or so, working out together. And the gains that he has made has just been off the charts. Like, put things in perspective. Last week, he pulled a personal best deadlift of 430 pounds. And when he started, he was pulling like 200 pounds. Like he's more than doubled his deadlift in the last 10 months. Like, and strength gains all across the board. Like he's all these lifts, like leg presses and squats and presses and like rows and all this kind of stuff. Like literally doubled his strength in the last 10 months by using this style of training, stopping short of failure and leaving reps in reserve and not draining the tank dry, just being good enough and good enough consistently. So, I mean, you can make some amazing strength progress and not risk injury. Like he hasn't had any injuries or setbacks in that process either, because we're so conscious of it. Right. So, I mean, that's the way that I like to coach a lot of my students. So I'm not a huge advocate of the push yourself to failure and beyond training. I mean, I've done it in the past, and that's usually where I've gotten most of my injuries, is by pushing to failure and beyond. So it's sure there's a time and a place where it may maximize muscle stimulation, but it can also maximize injury as well. And it's kind of a gray area that I try not to get into. Another question here. Have you done any extensive plyometrics? Not really. I mean, I have experimented with some plyometric, but not extensive. The most that I've done with plyometric work would probably be back in this is years ago now, back in the early days when I was primarily focusing on martial arts. There was a lot of explosive plyometric style exercises then, but that was like literally in my teenage years when I did that. Because for those of you who are not familiar, I mean, I started off with martial arts first. Like before I got serious into bodybuilding, I did martial arts like throughout junior high and high school and stuff like that. Like that was my main sport of choice, was doing martial arts. So I did a lot of explosive and plyometric type exercises through that. But then once I started to get involved with like bodybuilding training and then get involved with powerlifting, I never really did any extensive plyometric. I mean, sometimes I do things like jump squats or maybe do some explosive push-up variations, but I never really did it extensively. But with that being said, I think plyometrics are it's often a weak link for a lot of people. And if you want to really maximize strength and athletic performance, incorporating plyometrics can certainly do so. And I've seen a lot of advanced lifters and advanced athletes bust through plateaus by incorporating plyometric training. Because the thing with plyometrics is you're training with speed and not just that slow grind that you get when you're doing heavy, low rep type of weight training. Anytime you're doing heavy weight training, inevitably the velocity of the exercise is very slow because you're grinding it out. But when you're doing sub-maximal weights, but with maximal force, i.e. plyometrics, like a jump squat or something along those lines, you get maximum force and maximum velocity, and it provides unique muscle stimulation. So if anybody is in that advanced category and you're looking for ways to bust through some plateaus, plyometric work can certainly help. But the thing is, it needs to be done properly because the risk of injury is quite high. Anytime you're doing explosive movements, you got to be careful, and you got to get some proper coaching and proper instruction on how to do it. Right. So it's not something you want to take lightly, but it is another tool in the toolbox that can really help advanced level lifters to take things to the next level. We have Ziggy joining in saying, appreciate all your help. Been watching you for a long time. Well, thank you, Ziggy. Appreciate the comment. I'm glad to have your support over the years. How do you know when to increase the weight if you leave reps in the tank? Simple. You just always try. It depends on the exercise. I'll break it down first. Let's say we're doing deadlifts. Whatever your current top weight in deadlifts. Let's just, for simple sakes, let's say it's 300 pounds and you did 300 pounds for 5 reps last week and that felt good. Well, this week, let's try 305 and see if that felt good. If that felt good, great. Then the next week, let's try 310. And you keep going. And then if you get to the point where it's really a struggle, or maybe you don't even get all 5 reps or whatever your target rep range is. So if you do actually hit failure, then, okay, we're going to keep that weight for the next workout until you can comfortably complete all those sets and reps on your own with good form. So you will occasionally hit failure, but we're not pushing for it. We're not chasing failure. If it happens, it happens, but we're not out there chasing it. And this is the way that I train a lot of my students is, they'll do their workouts. And if it feels good, if the weight's moving smoothly and they're completing, all the sets and reps on their own with good form, okay, let's add another 5 pounds for the next workout and see how it goes. And very often the weight moves smoothly. They complete all the sets and reps with good form. All right, great. Let's try another 5 pounds the next workout. And we just build it up like that. And I'm there to guide them. So if I see that they're struggling with it, okay, we're going to keep the same weight for the next workout. Or if the form wasn't good, like maybe the range of motion wasn't as good as it could be, or there was a little bit of a little bit of momentum, especially like with exercises like rows or bicep curls or something like that. Like if someone's using a little bit of backswing and cheating the weight up, say, okay, we're going to keep the weight the same, or maybe even reduce it, tighten up the form before we start to worry on training in a progressive overload fashion. Like I always am a stickler for form first, but as long as they're moving the weight and completing all the sets and reps with good form, then we just let the progression build up. And it's the smallest increments that you can do. And for most gyms, at least here in North America, the smallest weight increments is usually 5 pounds, meaning like 2.5 pound plates on each side. So you increase the weight by 5 pounds. That's usually how I do it for big exercises. For smaller exercises or for dumbbell moves, sometimes we work within a repetition range. So I'll give you an example. Like maybe we're doing dumbbell bench presses. We'll say, okay, we're going to work up to a set of 8 reps with the 75-pound dumbbells. If that felt good, okay, we'll go 9 reps the next time. If that felt good, we'll go 10 reps the next time. We'll go and probably build it up to say like 12 reps. Once they're getting 12 reps with good form, then we'll drop the reps back down, go up to the next heaviest set of dumbbells, which in this case would be 80s, start that rep progression all over again. Right. So working within ranges, but there's always a structured progressive overload built in there, but we're doing so without pushing to failure. Right. So that's how we do it. Right. And you need to keep a training journal, like keep an idea of what your weights you're lifting, and you're always just trying to beat the journal. Right, over time. Now, it's not always going to happen. Like every single workout is not always going to happen. Some days you're going to have more strength and energy than others, but over time, you should see those weights moving up in the journal. All right, what else we got here? Do you watch ABAN preach? Nope, never heard of it. So can't say I do. All right. Are there any good side delt exercises, or is it really just lateral raises with either cable or dumbbells? One of my favorite side lateral raise exercises is I like the side lateral raise machine. This is going to be unique to you and your gym or wherever, but let's see if I can find a picture of it. I like the machine variation for this because it allows you to handle relatively heavy weight with good form. And where is it to? Here's a picture. I'm going to bring it up on my screen. Okay, there's a couple different variations of it. Second, guys, I'm going to share my screen here and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Share screen. Share screen. All right, here it is. Is that coming through there? All right, I'll just hide your question there for a second. All right, so side lateral. What the hell is that? All right, there we go. Side lateral raise machine. This right here. That we have one of those at Omega Health and Fitness, and I like that shoulder raise variation. That I actually find better than dumbbells because I find it's a very strict movement. It really isolates the side head of the deltoid. And I find that you can lift a lot of weight and do so with good controlled form, because where you're sitting down in the machine, the way I normally do it is that's actually the opposite of the way he's doing it. I have the chest facing the pad, and I find that it really gives you good, strict controlled movement, not a lot of swinging or momentum, but you can really overload with heavy weight. And it also works good if you want to do partial reps as well. So like you can sometimes even just do heavy partials in the bottom range of motion to really overload the delts. So that's actually my favorite side delt exercise. I prefer that even more so than dumbbell side lateral raises, but I will incorporate them all. I mean, I'll kind of cycle through them, but if you have access to that machine, the side lateral raise one, that would be a good one to add into your workouts for your side delts. All right, what else we got there? I lost my place now. Where was I? Actually, I think that was the last question that came through, the side lateral raise variation. All right. Well, if that is it, then this actually works out good because we are over the hour. I'm just looking at the clock there now. I've got 1 hour and 13 minutes, right? I promised an hour and I've over-delivered, right? The regulars to our video chat always know that. I always say I'm going to do this for an hour and I end up going longer once I get the gift of gab going. But hopefully you got some value from this. I mean, I always enjoy doing these video chats with you every Friday. And for those of you who are new and tuning in for the first time, just want to give you a heads up that every Friday we go live at 5 here on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, as well as over on Facebook, the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page, as well as my own personal profile. I stream this video chat and we go live at 5 p.m. Eastern time every Friday. So if you want to make it a part of your routine and schedule in, you certainly can do so. And if you can't make it live, then you can always check out the replays afterwards, and they're always posted up over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. Just click on the live tab up in the top menu bar, and you'll get access to our past video chat replays. All right. So again, hopefully you got some value from this. I certainly enjoyed doing it. And if you would like to elaborate on anything that we covered here today, like maybe you got further questions or you want some help with a personalized program that's right for you, feel free to reach out to me. You can send me an email. You can contact me through Facebook. Just send me a messenger message. I mean, all my information is down in the video description below. Just pop that open and you can access that. All right. Have yourself a great one. And I look forward to talking to you the same time, same place next Friday. Take care. Have yourself a good one. Over and out.